just recently, and because I have a podcast about innovation and teach on this subject now as well. I actually have been in the middle of reading a book by Avi Jorish called "Thou Shalt Innovate," and it's really fascinating. And I put a couple notes here I wanted to share with you that he gives in the book. First of all, he says obviously Israel is a small country with few financial resources and a small population with enemies galore. But he says Israel has managed to produce more startups than Canada, India, Japan, Korea, and the United Kingdom. Wait for it, combined. That's amazing. And outside of North America, the country has the largest number of companies on the NASDAQ. As he dived deeper into why all this is, it's really interesting. He talks about that there's an Israeli prayer called the Aleinu. It's spelled Aleinu. That they do 3 times a day in this tradition, and the prayer instructs them, among other things, to repair the world. And then if you go back to the prophet Isaiah, he mentioned how the prophet Isaiah called the Jewish people to act as a light unto the nations, right? So they're not just concerned with building themselves, but obviously God chose the Jews to be the chosen people, right? But also that Isaiah said, you're going to be a light to the world, and then now they have this traditional Jewish prayer that he's not sure how far back it goes, but it goes back to at least the Middle Ages about this call to repair the world. And so you can see them do this in so many ways. In the book, he has every chapter kind of laid out what Israelis have done in agriculture, in the energy industry, in the medical industry. And something that he also points out is how Israel is one of the first countries almost always to send, and the United States, we're very familiar with this too, to send people to disaster areas, right? So an Israeli team was one of the first on site in Haiti, like almost halfway around the world in 2010 after the earthquake. And I was just reminded in a story that I think I sent to you a month or so ago, that when this condo collapsed on Miami Beach, what was that, about almost 2 months ago now? Israel sent a team to Miami. Now, first of all, right up the street is a large Jewish population in that area, so you think, okay, there might be an interest there. But I thought what was fascinating is when these guys got off the plane, like we know it's like a 10 or 11 hour flight from Israel to Miami. They get off the plane. Naturally, you would go check into your hotel, get yourself comfortable, maybe take a nap, and then get to work after that. These guys insisted that right from the plane, they wanted to be taken to the condo building, and they were there for weeks working to help recover the damage. And so it's just, I think, emblematic of the spirit of the Israeli people and their call to repair the world and to be a light to the nations. And by the way, Josh, we're here in Guatemala. Yes. And well, I'm here in Guatemala. You're somewhere else, but in the United States. But I got here in March, and I'm living in Guatemala City. I'm teaching at the Universidad Francisco Marroquín. Within weeks of getting here, I'm walking down it's called the Reform District, this avenue, Avenida Reforma. And all of a sudden I see this huge Jewish star. I'm like, what is this about? Like on this very prominent area in Guatemala City. And so I walk over and read about it. Well, I learned that there's a great relationship between Guatemala and Israel that I was not aware about. There's also a lot of Jews that came to Guatemala, I think, following the Holocaust and World War II. They have just a great relationship, and there's actually a pretty strong Jewish community here in Guatemala. So that was like really neat to see, and it kind of took me back. It was kind of like when 2 places you had visited and that you would admire so much, when you see them kind of connect in different ways. That's kind of neat. But then, what was it in May? I think early May, late April, early May, when when Israel was being attacked with rocket fire every day for I think a couple of weeks. I saw Israeli flags go up all over Guatemala City. Like they would just be on street corners, like just on like public street lights. And then when I got over I was going to pick up a friend of mine at the airport in the middle of May, and there was all these Israeli flags like coming into the street leading up to the airport. I thought this is really fascinating. And I was in Antigua and I saw an Israeli flag there a few days later.
And actually the Israel Collective made a film where some Guatemalan leaders go into that a little more, because when the volcano erupted a couple of years ago in Guatemala, again, Israelis were some of the first people there providing physical aid, also aid to people, through mental health and, ministering to them through this time of trauma and loss and so on. And we show that in this film, and the backstory of it, and the leaders in Guatemala saying exactly that there is a big faith component to it, and also just a reciprocal relationship of gratitude and friendship that goes back a long way.